Right. Namaste, everyone, and welcome to this full moon session. It's a beautiful month, the month of August. Beautiful, of course, because of the weather, etc., everywhere, but also because this is the month of our beloved teacher's birth. He was born on 15th of August, 1952. So it's been a while. So it's a great joy and opportunity to share some of the things with you. So as usual, the format of the session would be to cover a short topic before we meditate. And I've been contemplating what to talk about. So this morning, finally, it settled on my mind, okay, let's talk about the way to the master. The question we usually ask, and quite often, what can I do? What must I do? What should be my attitude? How can I? What can I do to attract master's attention? How can I get close to him? And by the way, some of you may not be pranic healers per se, but a master here does not necessarily refer to grandmaster of pranic healing per se, but you may have your own teacher or the guru that you believe in. So, but in general, as long as you're a pranic healer, you sometimes think, hey, how can I access him? How can I get close? Why? And some of you who want to serve sometimes or be more useful to his work, sometimes you would think, why does master not use me? Right? Or on the other hand, sometimes you would think, why does master not help me when I need him? Yeah, some of these questions common. Now, while these are pertinent questions, and on the other hand, we sometimes ask, or rather not ask for help. We get stuck. We have problems in our life. We don't know what to do. We don't find answers, but we don't find answers because perhaps we have our own limitations. But then we make the mistake of thinking that our limitation is also the limitation of the teacher. And we hesitate to ask. We'll talk about that part, how do we address that? But let me go to the first questions that we had as to how do I make myself useful for the teacher, that how can I walk the path? What is the so-called plan, the divine plan? Because unless you understand, because all too often we say, hey, yes, I want to be pranic here or a Rathik yogi or this or that, but what are you getting into? Do you even know that? So, of course, we can never know it fully till the time we really get there. It's like a mosquito, assuming I'm a mosquito here and trying to understand a computer. Very difficult, no? If not impossible, but extremely, extremely difficult. So we would probably struggle to know what the path is unless we really, really get there. But I'll try to give you some glimpse of it. Again, by the way, all that I'm going to talk about is mainly from the different books that I'm referring. I'll add some interpretations here and there. So I'll do a lot of reading also, and then interject with some of the interpretations. So first thing is, of course, we ask to get near to master, right? But what is this, magnitude of task? Before we get there, in a very, very simplistic way, if I have to just summarize it right in the beginning, and then we'll elaborate on that. By being unselfish completely, meaning what? Learning to forget the personal self. Now, this does not mean that you don't care about yourself anymore, that you leave your family behind and you just go in a ashram or take some sannyas. That does not mean that. Personal self, the identity of personality, the I, when you forget the I, that's when you become unselfish. Now, what is the meaning of forgetting the I? Not identifying with the body. As you yourself realize that, hey, I am not the body, I am the soul. If I am the soul, the other person is also soul. All of us, we are one. So there is no sense of separativeness. You're not thinking about yourself alone, right? That is perhaps the meaning of letting go of the personal self, being unselfish, being devoting fully to the service of humanity. Now, again, it does not mean that you leave everything behind, your family obligations, etc. It doesn't mean that. When it says that you devote yourself wholly to the service of humanity, as the masters do, it just simply means that, whatever you do, at the back of it, the motivation is the service. You're doing for others, for a larger good, not thinking about your own personal interests. There's nothing wrong with having self-interest. A good, healthy self-interest is good. Selfishness. So please understand that we are talking or using the phrase selfishness, not the self-interest. Self-interest is good. Healthy self-interest is good. What are the examples of healthy self-interest? Is earning money to feed the family? Is this a good, healthy self-interest? Yeah. To get educated properly? It's a good, healthy self-interest so that you can earn the living, right? Doing something for your family, to send your children to proper studies and all. Good, healthy self-interest. So all of these, these are just examples here, but that's all good. Self-interest is good. Selfishness is to be avoided. So that's the summary. Now, let's talk about the magnitude a little bit, magnitude of the task and the importance of the work of the masters. Now here, when I am referring to masters, this is not just in the reference of Grandmaster, as we call him, our beloved Sadgurudev. It is actually beyond that. Most of you have been meditating with us. Sometimes you've heard the phrase called to all the holy masters. Holy master is a different designation altogether. It's a very high degree of initiate. What is initiation? Of course, I'll not go into many details of it, but just understand, for example, if let's say our Sadgurudev, Grandmaster, Aug'22, there are 7-8 degrees of initiations, but if he's at initiation 3, the holy masters are at the initiation 5 or 6. Okay, so something like that. So much higher. So when we are talking about, and of course, there is a path, right? We get to that. Let me read a few lines here. Few people realize the magnitude of this undertaking and therefore the seriousness of what they're asking when they want to be taken as pupils. The adepts and the arhats. That's where the word arhatic yoga comes from. That's the goal of present humanity, to reach arhatship. Right? So adept is a level below that. Okay. The adepts are dealing with the entire world in enormous, comprehensive sweeps of power. They are influencing millions in their causal bodies or on the Buddhic plane, and all the time steadily, though by almost imperceptible degrees, raising the higher bodies of the people on a wholesome scale. So these adepts, so-called adepts and the masters, are not in the physical plane themselves. They are on a different plane. And that's where they are operating from. Okay? That's where they are operating from. So when we ask to be near the, masters, we are talking about that kind of a work, contributing in that kind of a work. All those who dare to ask to become pupils should try to realize the stupendous character of the forces and the work and the magnitude of the beings with whom they propose to come into contact. So it is possible to come into contact, of course. How? We'll learn a little bit of it today. The least understanding of the greatness of all these things will make it clear why the adepts will not spend some of their energy on a pupil unless they have evidence that in a reasonable time, he will add to the support of the world a strong current of strength and power in the right direction. And there lies the clue. Why does Master not come to me when I ask him, what are you doing about it? Let's understand that. Human progress is slow, but it is constant. Therefore, the number of perfected men, of course, the men here refers to humanity as such, not just, this is not out of the gender men or women, but it's a general phrase. The number of perfected men is increasing, and the possibility of attaining to their level is within the reach of all who are willing to make the stupendous effort required. In normal times, we should need many births before we could gain adeptship, but it is possible for us to hasten our progress on that path, to compress into a few lives the evolution which otherwise would take many thousands of years. Okay. That preparation needs great self-control, determined effort, year after year. There will be definite progress, but it does not show physically. Now, this is an important point here. What does it mean? Because it involves the training of the higher bodies far more than the physical body, and the training of the higher does not always manifest itself very obviously on the physical plane. So that's the first thing. Some of us sometimes get bogged down by our physical limitations. So what can I do? I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. But that's very minuscule part of what we are. You've learned about it. We always say, I'm not the body, I'm not even the emotions, I'm not the thoughts, not the mind. I'm much beyond that. I'm the soul. The soul is using these vehicles, right? The physical world, the physical body that we see is the tiny, tiny, tiny part of our whole existence. That's not the whole truth, right? Imagine you have a ball, and you place a finger on the surface of the ball. So you're touching only the small portion of the entire ball. But if you imagine that, oh, what I'm touching is the whole ball. Not true. Then you're only touching a small portion. There's a bigger ball that you're not seeing or touching. That's how it is. We touch a small portion. We know only a small portion of ourselves. But we are beyond that. So that's the first thing. That the training happens, the preparation happens, and manifests at different levels. You should be willing to put that effort. That's the first thing. Anyone who hears about the masters and their teaching, if he has any grasp at all of what it means and involves, must instantly be seized with the most intense desire to understand them and enter their service. The more he learns, the more he does, he becomes filled with the wonder and beauty and the glory of God's plan. And the more anxious does he become to take part in the work. Possibly nothing else can bring satisfaction. Okay, now, then he begins to ask himself the question, what must I do next? That's the next thing. Okay, that theory is good. The task is enormous. We are supposed to be contributing in this so-called divine plan. So the question is how? What do I do? The answer is one word. Amazing. It says work. Do what you can to help the progress of humanity in the master's way. Begin with what you have the opportunity to do and what you can do, which may be any little external thing at first. Many times people call for service, hey, we want to do service. Okay, just go and do something simple like arranging chair in the hall of the meditation when people are coming. Oh, you know what? I can do so much more. You're asking me to arrange chairs in the hall? That's a petty task. I've seen some people like that. So please understand that first characteristic itself is humility, first of all. If you think yourself to be so big that you can't do something simple, with the awareness that all that you are doing is for the service of the teacher, of the master, then the pride will disconnect you. Right? So that's the first lesson here. Do your best. You will find yourself possessed of the qualifications which admit to the initiation and membership in the great white brotherhood itself in due course of time. Let me skip a few lines. Okay, now, one time, the author of this book had an opportunity to come close with a holy master, by the way. And he asked him in a letter, what should I do? Now listen to this answer, very, very profound. Very, very interesting. He answered to the following effect. You must find work for yourself. You know what we are doing as a master's work. Throw yourself into our work in any way you can. Now listen carefully. If I gave you a definite piece of work to do, you would do it, but in that case, the karma of what was done would be mine, because I told you to do it. You would only have the karma of willing obedience, which of course is very good, but it is not the karma of initiating a fruitful line of action. I want you to initiate work for yourself, because then the karma of the good deed will come to you. That's interesting, right? We often ask, what service can I do? I don't know much. Please tell me. Initiate. Do anything small you can do to contribute to the cause on your own. Prove with your actions that, hey, I'm doing some work. Again, not to prove, but we'll get to that aspect later. But just do is the direction from the masters. I think we might all take that unto ourselves. We might realize that it is our business not to wait until we are asked to do something, but to set to work. All too often we say, hey, it is so difficult. I can't do it. How can we do it? How can I reach people to arrange a pranic healing class? I don't have too many friends. I don't go out. I mean, we start with all of that, no? Get one. Talk to one person. Talk to them. Suddenly the doors open up. And again, remember the first thing we talked about. Your limitation is not the limitation of the teacher. Invoke. A beautiful line which Master said. I thought I would read it in the last, but I'll read it now because the topic has come. Conductivity, which is the Sharanagati, we'll talk about it in detail, but conductivity can be increased by doing invocation and salutation. Now listen to the next line. Do these with consciousness, with the fire of the heart and love. Amazing. That's a word of our beloved Master. Just invoke. Let him flow through you. Nothing is impossible. Of course, you can do most things which ordinary people would find it difficult doing. Just try that. Okay, invoke. All right. Let's see. So this was about the task and what must I do. Now, to be able to do that, there are many things, but masters have given 4 qualifications to enter the path, to really enter the path. Now, this is where I want to spend most of our conversation, because that's the big piece, right? And for that, I'll go to this small booklet, or book rather. This is called At the Feet of the Master. Some of you have this book. Those who have been studying with me, I've mentioned this book I don't know how many times. So mini book, small little book, but extremely powerful. So I'll want to spend a little time on the first qualification, because there are 4 qualifications he has mentioned, but we'll not go in all of them. We'll cover the first one because that's where it starts. Okay. Before that, just a few lines here. It is not enough to say that they are beautiful and true, the teachings and the words. A man who wishes to succeed must do exactly what is said. To look at the food and say that it is good will not satisfy a starving man. He must put forth his hand and eat. So to hear the master's words is not enough. You must do what he says, attending to every word, every hint. If the hint is not taken, if a word is missed, it is lost forever because he does not speak twice. So what are the qualifications to the master, to reach master, to enter the path? 4 qualifications are: the first one is discrimination or discernment. In pranic healing parlance, master talks about accurate perception, correct expression. Buddha's 8-fold path, what's the first one? Correct viewpoint. It starts there. See, in all different traditions, it starts with accurate perception, discrimination. Now, this is a very, very important point, and we'll spend good time on understanding this quality. Between the real and the unreal, which leads men to enter the path, it is this, but also much more. It is to be practiced not only at the beginning of the path, but at every step of it, every day until the end. Till the last breath that we take in this physical body, and of course, whenever. You enter the path because you have learned that on it alone can be found those things which are worth gaining. Men who do not know work to gain wealth and power, but these are at most for one life only, and therefore unreal. There are greater things than these, things which are real and lasting. When you have once seen these, you desire those others no more. So that's the first so-called discrimination that we do between what is real, what is unreal. Many a time we spend a lot of time in vacations and enjoyments and eating, drinking, having excessive fun. Nothing bad with it again. But if it is eating into your spiritual sadhana at times, and you say, hey, you know what? Am I doing the real or after the real or after the unreal? That's the first so-called discrimination that we do. In all the world, there are only 2 kinds of people, those who know and those who do not know. And this knowledge is the thing which matters. The knowledge of the God's plan for men. For God has a plan, and that plan is evolution. When once a man has seen that and really knows it, he cannot help working for it and making himself one with it, because it is so glorious, so beautiful. If he's on God's side, he's one of us. It does not matter in the least whether he calls himself a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Christian, or a Mohammedan, or an Englishman, or Chinaman, or Russian, or Indian. Those who are on his side know why they are here and what they should do, and they are trying to do it. All the others do not yet know what they should do, and so they often act foolishly and try to invent ways for themselves which they think will be pleasant for themselves, not understanding that all are one, and therefore only what the one wills can ever be really pleasant for anyone. I hope you got that. There's a phrase called "let thy will be done." Have you heard this? In Christianity, in many prayers, they say, "Let thy will be done." In pranic healing, when we practice Sharanagati, when we practice the invocation towards the teacher, we sometimes say, "Master, let thy will be done." You know more than me. You know what is good for me, what is not good for me. And there will not be a single moment or a single instance in my life where you are not aware of what is happening with me. And I put that trust in you. It's easy to say that, because a lot of people talk about bhakti and devotion. Yes, a lot of people think that bhakti is just doing the bhajans and the japas and all of that. But when it comes to life, they look for blaming others for anything that is so-called wrong happening with them. Because this situation was like this, I was not this, I was that, this and that. But true bhakti, devotion, surrender, samarpan comes with the faith, with the knowing that is always thinking of what is right for me, and that's what is happening with me, no matter how it appears on the surface. Even if you fall down, maybe there is a reason why you're falling down. Maybe there is a lesson or something. Unflinching faith. That's one quality. So all those who are not aware, they are following the unreal instead of the real. Until they learn to distinguish between these two, they have not ranged themselves on God's side. And so this discrimination is the first step. Now, let's take it further. Even when the choice is made, you must still remember that of the real and unreal, there are many varieties. And discrimination must still be made between the right and the wrong, the important and the unimportant, the useful and the useless, the true and the false, the selfish and the unselfish. Between right and wrong, it should not be difficult to choose. Those who have chose to or wish to follow Master have already decided to take the right at all costs. At all costs, no matter what it costs to you. You always do the right thing. Now, sometimes we don't know what is right. Sometimes we get confused. One of the methods which you can use to decipher or to know at that time is, of course, invocation is one technique, but think of if your thought process into that situation. What would Master do in this situation? Place your thought process besides his. What would he do? Would he do something like that? No, I don't think so. He would, So that is one way to get to the right path. Always remember, there is at all costs to do right at all costs. When your body wishes something, stop and think whether you really wish it. For you are God, and you will only what God wills. But you must dig deep down into yourself to find God within you. Do not give in to your bodies. Okay, I'll skip a few lines here. Now, when there is work that must be done, the physical body wants to rest, to go out walking, to eat and drink, and the man who does not know says to himself, I want to do these things and I must do them. But the man who knows says, this that wants is not I. And it must wait a while. Often when there is an opportunity to help someone, the body feels, how much trouble it will be for me, let someone else do it. How many of you have received calls for healing? And then, you know what, let me ask someone else. We know how to heal, right? We have learned pranic healing. We know how to move hands. We know how to clean and energize. Let me call another person. Yes, happens. But the man who knows replies to his body, you shall not hinder me in doing the good work. No matter what time it is, no matter how uncomfortable it is. The body is your animal, the horse upon which you ride. Of course, take care of it. Keep it strictly clean always, even from the minutest speck of dirt. Of course, this is not the physical bathing and all of that. You have to understand that physical etheric body is one. The dirt here refers to keeping your body clean in all possible ways. Doing proper exercises, feeding it the right food, drinking right things, right? Keeping your etheric hygiene. You've learned about it in pranic healing, basic and advanced, how to maintain that. And of course, it goes beyond that actually. If you extend it further, the dirt aspect of it, do not let any negative emotions stay onto you. Even when some people ask us sometimes, hey, don't you get depressed at times? Don't you get angry or sad at times? Don't you struggle? You've seen so many things. Don't you feel sad at times? What we don't realize is that everything is impermanent. What comes goes. The sadness has come, it will go. The happiness has come, it is also impermanent. So don't get attached to it. Don't let the sadness cause depression into you, because it is going, it is impermanent. The happiness should not get into your head and become you become proud about it. No, it is impermanent. And at the same time, you're aware that what is happening to you, there is a higher authority, so to speak, who is watching over you, who knows what is happening to you all the time. And that entity always wants good for you. There's a beautiful, I was actually watching a video, and there's a beautiful example that this person mentioned. So there's a photo, we receive so many forwards on WhatsApp. There's a small little girl holding a teddy bear. And this God is asking, give me that beer, that teddy bear. And the girl says, no, I like it. I can't give it to you. I love it so much. What the girl is not seeing, that unless she frees her hand, that God has a bigger teddy bear. He's willing to give the bigger one, but we are holding on to something small. The God says, just trust me and hand it over to me. But no, we are stuck with it. Perhaps you are not meant for doing something small. Perhaps you're meant to do something magnificently large. But are you allowing your greatness to be manifested? But if you're holding always onto small things, you never, if I hold one, big thing on this hand, another thing, unless I let go of one, can I hold the other thing? I cannot. So letting go at the right time is also a lesson that we need to learn. Yeah. The astral body has its desire, dozens of them. It wants to be angry. It wants to say sharp words, feel jealous, to be greedy for money, to envy people of their possessions, to yield yourself to depression. All these things it wants, and many more, not because it wishes to harm you, but because it likes violent vibrations and likes to change them constantly. But you, the true you, want none of these things, and therefore you must discriminate between your wants and your bodies. You, the soul, are not the body. So this is another level of discrimination, discernment. The mental body, it tries to calculate for self, to make you think of your own progress instead of thinking of the master's work and of helping others. You are not this mind, but it is yours to use. So here again, discrimination is necessary. You must watch unceasingly or you will fail. Between right and wrong, occultism knows no compromise. At what apparent cost, whatever apparent cost, that which is right, you must do. That which is wrong, you must not do, no matter what the ignorant may think or say. You must discriminate also between important and the unimportant, firm as a rock where right and wrong are concerned. Yield always to others in things which do not matter. For you must always gentle and kindly, reasonable and accommodating, leaving to others the same full liberty which you need for yourself. Now, this is again very important point. We want to be loved, we want to be respected, we want to have all flexibility in the world, we want to be forgiven if you make a mistake, but we don't afford that to others. So be gentle and kind, reasonable and accommodating. That's another aspect of discrimination. Try to see what is worth doing, and remember, you must not judge by the size of the thing. A small thing which is directly useful in the master's work is far better worth doing than a large thing which the world would call good. You must distinguish not only the useful from the useless, but the more useful from less useful. To feed the poor is a good and noble, useful work, yet to feed their souls is a nobler and more useful than to feed their bodies. Of course, it doesn't mean you stop feeding poor people. But if you know, it is your duty to help others to know. So if you know pranic healing, for example, you know to enhance meditation, spread the word. How many of us take that effort to really go out and talk to people about it? It is your dharma. By the virtue of knowing something which has transformed your life in whatever form and shape, the opportunity has been given to you to be able to spread the word. But if you don't, think about it. By the way, Master also in one of the books said that what you waste will be taken away from you. So if you apply this in this context, you will understand what I'm trying to get at. You must also carefully think what is worth learning. All knowledge is useful, and one day you will have all knowledge. But while you have only part, take care that it is most useful part. Discrimination. You must distinguish between truth and falsehood. You must learn to be true at all through in thought, word, and deed. In thought first. And that is not easy, for there are in the world many untrue thoughts, many foolish superstitions, and no one who is enslaved by them can make progress. Do not believe blindly. Okay? Discrimination. Therefore, you must not hold a thought just because many other people hold it. That's called the herd instinct, right? I mean, you would have heard of herd instinct or herd mentality. Yeah? Not because it has been believed for centuries, not because it has been written in some book which men think sacred. None of it. You must think of the matter for yourself and judge for yourself whether it is reasonable. He who walks the path must learn to think for himself. For superstition is one of the greatest evils in the world. Okay, your thought about others must be true. I'm just, almost, of course, not reading every single line, but trying to give you the most important points here. And just bear with me, we'll spend a little while here. You must not think of them what you do not know. This is one of the most important things that you will hear, because the most commonly experienced one. Do not suppose that they are always thinking of you. If a man does something which you think will harm you, or says something which you think applies to you, do not think at once, he meant to injure me. Most probably, he never thought of you at all. For each soul has its own troubles, and its thoughts turn chiefly around itself. If a man speaks angrily to you, do not think he hates me or he wishes to wound me. Probably someone or something else has made him angry, and because he happens to meet you, he turns his anger upon you. He is acting foolishly, for all anger is foolish, but you must not therefore think untruly of him. Discernment. This one I talked about, how do you gauge, how do you put your thoughts by laying beside master's thoughts? For the pupil is one with his master, he needs only to put back his thought into master's thought to see at once whether it agrees. So you may stop often to think, what would the master say or do under these circumstances? For you must never do or say or think what you cannot imagine the master as doing. or saying or thinking. Why are we talking about it? Of course, this is with the understanding that master, a guru, has walked through the path. He has seen everything, is what he has told, is probably far from a much higher perspective than we can see. So again, use your discernment there. There is something that I would like to read from another book. Actually, it's something very interesting here. Because many people, when they start doing this, they get into a delusion. And I will talk about it because this is a very dangerous one. To raise a good family who will serve him in turn, to make money to use in his service, to win power in order to help him with it, master's work. All these may be part of it. Yet, in doing these things, the disciple must ever be on guard against self-deception. Must see that he is not cloaking with the holiness of the master's name what is underneath a selfish desire to wield power or handle money. Many people do that in the name of doing something good. That's something which happens in the name of religion also, right? And in spiritual fields also. People take master's name, oh, I'm doing this for master, but their intent is something else. So guard against that. This is a very, very big pitfall. Okay. The disciple of the master has to look around and see what there is to do, which is within his power. He must not look with disfavor upon the humblest task, thinking, I am too good for this. I think we spoke about it. Okay, so do any service that you can, the smallest, tiny bit. What else? This is very interesting. Huh? You must be true in speech too, accurate and without exaggeration. Now, listen carefully. Never attribute motives to another. Only his master knows his thoughts, and he may be acting from reasons which have never entered your mind. If you hear a story against anyone, do not repeat it. It may not be true. And even if it is kinder not to say, or it is kinder to say nothing. Think well before speaking, lest you should fall into inaccuracy. So watch. There are a couple of more left here. We'll just talk about it. And be true in action. Never pretend to be other than you are, for all pretense is a hindrance to the pure light of truth, which should shine through you as sunlight shines through the clear glass. You must discriminate between the selfish and the unselfish, for the selfishness has many forms. And when you think you have finally killed it in one of them, it arises in another as strongly as ever. But by degrees, you will become so full of thought for helping of others that there will be no room, no time for any thought about yourself. And lastly, learn to distinguish the God in everyone and everything, no matter how evil he or it may appear on the surface. You can help your brother through that which you have in common with him, and that is the divine life. Learn how to arouse that in him. Learn how to appeal to that in him. So shall you save your brother from wrong. Many a times when we find somebody doing not so good thing, not fulfilling his duty and all of that, we start criticizing. We say, hey, this person is not doing this, not doing that. He's so selfish. Does he not care about his family, and so on and so forth. While perhaps sometimes your intent could be okay, that you want to in some way, but you are starting with a judgment there. Rather than that, if you have encouraging thought, saying that, may he have that wisdom to do what is right, as an example, right? That way you are helping him progress. But the moment you generate these thoughts about how bad a person is, at least in your perception, you are hindering the progress. And again, what you do to others, you are doing to yourself. We are one. We are one. What we do to others, we are doing to ourselves. Remember that. That is another aspect of law of karma. When you are criticizing someone, discern. Be careful with it. Okay. Couple of more things and then we'll meditate. Sorry about taking a little longer. And this topic is vast and I would hope to have a much more detailed session on it one fine day, because there are many qualities which we can go in depth. But there is one complaint in many disciples. They say, hey, I do so much, then master does not look at me. Why does he not recognize me? Well, please understand, none is overlooked. None. But when you truly understand how does it work, you will never have a question that, what can I do to attract master's intention? Okay, let me first give you a story which this author has mentioned. So one time there was this man knew of someone on a physical plane, of a man of vast erudition and of the most saintly character, who believed, this is a very beautiful story, listen carefully, who believed thoroughly in the existence of the masters and devoted his life to one object of qualifying himself for their service. He seemed to me a man in every way so entirely suitable for discipleship, so obviously better than myself in many ways, that I could not understand how it was that he was not already recognized. And so, being young in the work and ignorant, one day, when a good opportunity offered itself, very humbly and as it were apologetically, I mentioned his name to the master, with the suggestion that he might perhaps prove a good instrument. A smile of kindly amusement broke out upon master's face as he said, "Ah, you need not fear that your friend is being overlooked. No one can ever be overlooked. But in this case, now listen carefully. In this case, there still remains a certain karma to be worked out, which makes it impossible at the moment to accept your suggestion. Soon, your friend will pass away from the physical plane, and soon he will return to it again. And then the expiation will be complete, and what you desire for him will have become possible." Interesting. Interesting. Sometimes some karma remains to be worked out. Many a times when we go through intense suffering in our life, thinking that, master or the God is so unkind, guess what? Whenever we have a suffering, a karma is being worked out. You are being readied. Just imagine holding an arrow and a bow. When you're being pulled back, guess what happens? Of course, not to the extent where the bow breaks, but when you're being pulled back, the more you're pulled, the higher and the farther you will go, isn't it? When it is released. So something like that. A karma has to be worked out. But how gracefully we take it, with the understanding that all that is happening is because of the plan. Let thy will be done. That is faith. That is the meaning of surrender. Surrender, Sharanagati, Samarpan, does not mean blind, superstitious, just giving up all your faculties and say, okay, you are lost, you are defeated. No. Surrender, Samarpan means you understand, you have that unshakable faith that all that is happening is because of a plan. Most of you have heard about Gita or probably read about it. And this in the battlefield between Arjun and Krishna. That conversation is referred to as a Samarpan. Arjun, when he is speaking to Krishna, the bhava is of Samarpan. Now, you may imagine, there was no need to ask questions, right? Because he very well knew whom he be talking to. He's a god. He's saying, go and fight. He should have no questions left. No, I mean, the god is saying fight. I should just go and fight. But he's still asking questions. In a Samarpan way, in a surrendering. What does it mean? Knowing very well, just because you're God doesn't mean that I do not let out my curiosity, my ignorance, knowing very well that this person has all the answers that I need. So there is nothing wrong in asking questions. Question, it does not mean that you become against it. You're not challenging the authority. You're trying to get your answers so that you have much more awareness of what you're doing and why is it being done, and that you can do it much more lovingly and with the acceptance. So that conversation, otherwise that would have just finished in 2 pages. It took 18 chapters to talk about it, because there is a samvad, a conversation happening. The disciple is trying to understand in all its politeness. So what Master talks about Sharanagati is, of course, who is the foremost Sharanagat? Lord Hanuman, no? Have you heard of him? Of course, you must have heard of him. Indians, we all know it. Let's briefly talk about it, very, very briefly. Again, I'll take a few words from the book Hinduism Revealed. Sharanagati. It has been mistranslated as surrender, which is not correct. In war, when the enemy gives up all resistance, we call it surrender. When an enemy surrenders, the Agnya and the solar plexus chakras become small and the aura becomes small. Since the enemy has given up, he becomes weak. But Sharanagati is reducing your internal resistance. Sharanagati is also called conductivity. Giving up your resistance is increasing your conductivity, right? It is a sign of an advanced chela. When a chela or a disciple becomes internally conductive, power passes through him. This kind of Sharanagati does not weaken you, it empowers you. Your Agnya becomes very strong. In fact, if you have a proper surrender, you will notice that you're becoming stronger. You're becoming much more empowered, because you know that power higher than you flows through you. How many of you have noticed? Just reflect. A few years before, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ago, how was your life? Some of the things you're doing today, do you think could have been possible 5, 10 years ago? Can you imagine doing that? But today, you have no fear. You have, okay, an idea comes to you, you think through it and you execute it. You have that power behind you. That happens when you have a proper surrender, because there's a higher power pushing you ahead. Okay? If you have Sharanagati, you will not need to do a lot of sadhana, because the blessings going to you are so intense. It is like doing sadhana. You will be like Hanuman, constantly looking at the Sadguru and following the example of the Sadguru. Okay, let's see something else. Interesting. Just a little funny anecdote. Nowadays, people are like Hanuman, but they are the wrong type of Hanuman. Instead of meditating on Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, or the Sadguru, they regularly meditate on the rock stars, actors, actresses. They idolize actors and actresses in movies. These people are not exactly the best role models. If you look at them, you do not get spiritual empowerment. This is the wrong type of Sharanagati. This is using the wrong role model. When what you meditate on, you become. What you meditate on, you become. So if you really want to be with the master, imitate, be a Hanuman, be a monkey. Monkey does what? He imitates, right? When you throw something at the monkey, it throws back at you. So Hanuman, that's why it was chosen as a symbol, by the way, right? A disciple is supposed to keep looking at the Sadguru and follow the Sadguru's inner qualities, not the physical qualities. Inner qualities. By all means, and that's what we have been talking about. Lay your thought beside the master's. Now, what would the master do here in this situation? Something like that. Let's see if I need to, I know it's been a little long session, but just give me a few more minutes and we should get into the meditation part. Wondering if there's something else I wanted to talk. There's so many books I'm referring to. Let's see. There was something I remember. Just give me a moment. Okay. So in that example, which I was, the person asked this person, and then he said karma needs to be worked out. Just to give you an idea of what happened next. And then with gentle kindness, which is all, why am I telling you this? Probably at least this story might help you to probably more convincingly understand something, right? That you are never ignored. He blended my consciousness with his in an even more intimate manner and raised it to a plane far higher than I could then reach. And from that elevation, he showed me how the great ones look upon the world. The whole earth lay before us with its millions of souls, undeveloped, most of them, and therefore inconspicuous. But wherever amidst all that mighty multitude, there was one who was approaching even at a great distance the point at which definite use could be made of him. He stood out among the rest, just as the flame of a lighthouse stands out in the darkness of the night. Now you see, so Master said, now you see how utterly impossible it would be that anyone should be overlooked who is even within measurable distance of the possibility of acceptance as a probationer. So you're never ignored. But then, you have to have that unflinching faith. One thing I must warn you, whenever you do something, any service, now this is very, very, very important. When you are doing service, never look for a reward. Never, because that's the wrong spirit. If one has not delight in service for its own sake, but is only looking for the reward of occult recognition, he has not really the right spirit. He has not understood the meaning of service. In India, if you in olden days, there would be so-called ashrams, and people would, the disciples would come and just keep serving the ashram, keep cleaning it every day for 10, 20, 30 years. And you look at the guru there and you ask him, hey, you are not teaching him anything. But then at the end of 30, 40 years, suddenly the person attains enlightenment. You know why? Because first of all, a guru does not ignore, and nobody is overlooked. You're being watched. You may not be externally recognized, but there is an inner knowing. The teacher knows. The chela is being purified by the act of service, not seeking return or reward. That master should look upon me, but just keeping the head down and serve and serve and serve. And on the right time, he attains the enlightenment. That's how the ways in the old days were. But what happens today? The moment we do something, we feel, hey, you should recognize me. You should not just forget about me being service. In our daily life, we do something and we want others to recognize it. No? And we beat our own drum. Hey, I've done this, I've done that. Look at so much I'm doing. Do we do that? Sometimes, often, always. Then you have not understood the meaning of what. Then you actually, when we do that, we have demeaned our own selves. So when you do some service, never do with the expectation that, okay, something should come back to me. Do it for the sake of service. Then you enter the master's heart. That is the way to the master. Do your work humbly, not seeking rewards, not just because you want to be more powerful or being in an inner circle of the teacher and so on and so forth. No. One time a student asked me, of course, I'm just an instructor, but I want to be a favorite student. Okay. Work. I would just read. Why should I use my words here? So just read something from the book itself. That will sufficiently clarify it for you. They have their masters. The masters have their private affections just as we have. And assuredly, they love some men more than others. But they will never allow such feelings as those to influence their attitude in the very slightest degree when the work is in question. They will take much trouble over a man if they see in him the seeds of future greatness. If they think that he will prove a good investment for the amount of time and force spent upon him. There is no such possibility as the faintest thought of favoritism in the minds of the great ones. They consider simply and solely the work which has to be done, the work of evolution, the value of the man in relation to it. And if we will fit ourselves to take part in it, the progress will be rapid. That's that. So when you have the proper Sharanagati, and I will finish with this last few lines from Master's book. With Sharanagati, you can move mountains. Mountains symbolize mountains of obstacles. With Sharanagati, you can remove obstacles bigger than the Himalayan mountains. With Sharanagati, you can spread pranic healing all over India, all over the world. With Sharanagati, you can help your fellow Indians, of course, fellow human beings, evolve spiritually to a higher level. You can make them understand higher levels of truth instead of staying at the level of Tama, the lower level of truth. They can go to the level of Vasto, the higher level of truth. This is good karma for you. With Sharanagati, you can alleviate to a certain degree the suffering of the mankind and help humanity evolve. With Sharanagati, you can do a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of things. And when you do that, you enter the path. You go close to the Master's heart automatically. You don't have to ask for it. But you must work. Find your own work. Do even the smallest contribution you can make. Do it. That is the way to the Master. Okay, so I spoke a lot. I think it's more than an hour. Let's meditate, shall we? Do a short meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Just curl your tongue and touch the soft portion of your mouth. Just normalize your breathing. Now, just raise your hand in blessing. Those who are new, just raise your hand in front of your chest. Visualize Mother Earth in front of you, the size of a small ball. Now, we will use the great invocation prayer and bless Mother Earth. So, just repeat after me the words of this powerful prayer. The great invocation from the point of light within the mind of God. Let light stream forth into the minds of every person, every being. Let light descend on earth. Om. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of every person, every being. Let love descend on earth. May Christ, may Krishna, may the great avatar return to earth. Om. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the holy masters know and serve. Let goodwill and the will to do good descend on earth. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light, love, and power restore the divine plan on earth. So be it. Om. 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 May the power of one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of one soul characterize the lives of all those who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part through harmlessness, right speech, and selflessness. So be it. Let all the sentient beings on Mother Earth be blessed with light, love, and power. May all the beings, all the sentient beings in all dimensions, in all directions, be blessed. Without exception, your ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, person whom you do not like, everybody, every person, every being be blessed with compassionate, purifying light and soothing, healing energies. So be it. May all those who are suffering be blessed, be healed. May they be soothed of their pain, sorrow, and suffering. May they be healed. So be it. Be aware of different areas on earth which are where people are suffering. It could be due to conflicts or wars or any natural calamities. And in general, whosoever is suffering, may they be blessed, may they be healed. May they have an inner knowing that there is a better tomorrow. May they be blessed with hope and with faith. So be it. May they be blessed with peace, harmony, happiness, and joy. So be it. Bless the country where you live, the city, people around you. Need not necessarily be where you are presently physically, but mostly where you stay, your place of work. May every person, every being be blessed with peace, with love, with happiness, with forgiveness, harmony, understanding, cooperation. So be it. With tolerance, with flexibility. So be it. Bless your family. Visualize them together. Visualize how calmly everybody is responding, talking to each other, how understanding everybody is. There's so much peace and harmony in your home. Bless your home. May our homes be blessed with tremendous peace, harmony, happiness, calmness, tenderness, forgiveness, flexibility, tolerance, kindness. So be it. May all our family members be blessed with progress, with wisdom. So be it. May all of us be blessed. So be it. Bless your colleagues, your workplace, your factory, your workers, co-pranic healers, any team that you work with. May all of them be blessed. So be it. May the source of our food and water be blessed. So be it. May the very air that we breathe be blessed, be filled with love. So be it. May every person, every being around us be blessed. So be it. Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu. The whole of Mother Earth be blessed. Also be aware of your wishes if you have. Written them down or in your mind. Visualize the end result, whatever that may be. Try to think of some impartial wishes as well. Something not related to you or your immediate family, perhaps, but something more altruistic for your guru's work or something like that. Something impersonal. May all your wishes be blessed. May they be materialized fully, properly, and rapidly. Now, now, so be it. In the name of Supreme God, in the name of all the holy gurus, holy masters, in the name of all the holy angels, the archangels, the devas and the mahadevas, so be it. In the name of Lord Buddha, Buddha Kuan Yin, Mahaguruji Meleng, in the name of Master Choa Kok Sui, so be it. You may also think of an area of your life which you find difficult, not having any answers or solutions. Put your hands in the offering mode as if you're offering that problem to your teacher or to the Supreme God, doesn't matter. Just think of that and just offer gently. Say, Master, God, please heal this area of my life. On my own, I am not much capable, but my limitations are not your limitations. Thank you for healing me, this part of my life. In full faith, we thank you. Let us do a Thanksgiving prayer to the Supreme God, to the Divine Father, Divine Mother, to Lord Maha Guruji Meiling, Ma Kuan Yin, to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the holy masters, saints, holy gurus, to our beloved Sadgurudev, Mahatma Master Choa Kok Sui, to all the higher beings, all the healing angels, healing ministers, spiritual helpers, all the visible and invisible helpers. We thank you for your priceless blessings, for your divine guidance, help, healing, and protection on all levels of our life, in all areas of our life. In full faith, we thank you. You may gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. So that was a short, quick meditation course. We hope you liked the session. You were able to learn something out of this, and hopefully you can implement some of these things, ponder upon it. And if there is enough interest in the group, we can have a much more detailed session on it. Then we can spend more time to understand each of the qualities, the attributes that we should have, and what are the hindrances that prevent us to, go deeper for a later day. Just ping me, those who are interested, on my personal window, if you're really interested in something like that. We'll hopefully plan something. Okay. All right then. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, let me see. If by any chance anybody has any questions, I will leave it for a minute or two. If anybody has anything, you can unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, we are good to close. Wait if anybody has any questions. No? Okay. Perhaps too much to digest and absorb. We'll definitely upload it on the YouTube. You can watch it again and perhaps ask later. Thank you once again for joining us tonight, and you have a wonderful evening and rest of the week ahead. And do join us for our next meditation. And some of you, we are meeting on the 15th of August to celebrate Master's birthday physically. So see you. Atma Namaste. Take care.